So I don't think he's got Zoom muted, but for some reason he can't hear me. So what can I say? You're stuck with me. So it was a very exciting day because it started off with me sitting out on the deck this morning, like I usually do with my cup of coffee, checking out morning headlines and seeing what's going on. And my dog starts barking, and he's looking straight out the side of the deck uh, through the front of the yard to the street that's in the front of my house. And then there's my neighbor's property there. And lo and behold, there was the biggest black bear I've ever seen. It was a big male. That's all that it had to be. And he was just plodding along, just walking his way out of the woods, across my neighbor's property, and then he went on his merry way. So that was that was the most exciting part of my day. And the other thing is that it didn't get out of the 60s here today for the second day in a row. And for North Georgia in early August, that's quite an accomplishment. In fact, most of the state had a tough time getting out of the upper 60s and low 70s. So there's that. In the meantime, uh, you have uh, uh, you had a nice day up in the Northeast, although again had to deal with clouds and haze. And I think we could show that pretty well on the satellite tonight. So I'm going to take a look at that, and you'll see that milky white that's across the Northeast. That's not cloud cover. There is actually a little bit of cloud cover that's coming from the blow off moisture that's in the Southeast, and you can see it separates across Ohio and is moving through northern Pennsylvania and parts of the Hudson Valley. But that milky white almost looks like somebody took a little bit of paint and just sort of weakly brushed across the Great Lakes into the Northeast. That is the smoke from the Canada wildfires. It seems to have pulled up a little bit this evening, but it's still there, and there probably still will be some around tomorrow. In the meantime, just as we take a look at what's happening here, we've got Tropical Storm Dexter, which is well east of the North Carolina coast and well south of Halifax, Nova Scotia, moving away to the northeast, and is not going to be an issue for anybody other than maybe kicking up the surf a little bit. And the moisture from the south is going to get impinged a bit because there's higher pressures that are going to be building through eastern Canada and down into the mid Atlantic states. So that's going to effectively wall off that southern moisture. And the other one other thing I just want to point out is that through all of this, we do have pressures that are going to remain low off the southeast coast late this week. We could wind up seeing another low develop there. Now, whether anything comes of it or not from the standpoint of tropical development remains to be seen, but it will continue to feed in moisture into the southeast. But as long as you've got that big high in eastern Canada that's going to be building down, it's going to lower the temperatures from Wednesday on as the winds turn to the east. And it'll also, at least for a while, hold whatever moisture is in the southeast, just kind of keep it there. We still have one more very warm day tomorrow with temperatures probably again in the middle to upper 80s. There might be a hot spot or two that might get up close to 90. It's not impossible. And then when we turn the wind to the east and northeast, that'll lower the temperatures down. The one thing about the onshore flow that we're going to see develop is that it's not a high that is sitting out to the northeast in Atlantic Canada. It's going to be sitting north of Vermont for a while and actually gradually make its way southward as we move through the latter part of the week. So the flow that's going to be coming in is going to be more dry than anything else. So we're not going to, I don't think we're going to have to really worry about low clouds and hanging on during the day. Maybe there might be a little bit of low cloudiness and some fog that might form in some coastal areas in overnight periods, but I don't see any kind of widespread fog situation or low clouds coming in from the setup that we're going to have. But it's a typical transition now as we move into the month of August and want to call them the August dog days. This is kind of how it's supposed to be, where you've got a high and it gets somewhat stagnant. And we're seeing, again, persistent moisture in the southeast that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And we have flash flood watches up, by the way, for much of Georgia and eastern Alabama down to the Florida panhandle and There's been some flash flood warnings in some of the southwestern Georgia counties. In the Northeast, all of the Northeast, and a little bit further south too, into Pennsylvania and parts of New Jersey, we have air quality alerts because of the wildfire smoke. Also, in Michigan and northern Indiana, in Wisconsin, and on up into the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, we're seeing the same thing. We've got two working severe thunderstorm watches that are up in Colorado, extending up into Nebraska, a couple of counties in northwest Kansas, and also a good chunk of Montana, mostly in the middle part of the state, where we have some severe thunderstorm watches going on there. Nothing on the radar in the northeast and mid Atlantic states. You have to head down into western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee, interior South Carolina, and then you see the rain that's coming up from the southwest and parts of Georgia. I'm just on the edge of this. I have had very little rain today. It's all passed by. The bulk of it has passed by to my east, and the heavier rains have been more to the south. And again, you see there are areas where there's not much going on at all. Little area there in southeast Georgia, extreme southeast Georgia, near the Florida state line. And then we got some showers and thunderstorms just inland of the coast on the east coast of Florida, running from north to south, from just south of Orlando to just west of Palm Beach. And they're kind of sliding to the north. So we'll see what those do, because that's all part of that plume of moisture that's in the southeast. Some strong thunderstorms and some severe thunderstorm warnings for two complexes of storms in eastern Colorado. Some scattered thunderstorm warnings that are up in parts of southeast Wyoming into Nebraska, as well as up into Montana. We've got a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings with some scattered showers and thunderstorms there. That's where the Storm Prediction Center, by the way, has risk tonight with three severe thunderstorm watch boxes that are up from extreme northwest Texas northward into western Nebraska and southeast Wyoming. Then there's a gap, and then we've got another severe thunderstorm watch for central Montana. No thunderstorm activity in the east for the most part, in the northeast and mid-Atlantic, I should say, and then of course you see some downpours in the southeast and Florida. These thunderstorms that are in the southeast and Florida are heavy rain producers, and they are not severe weather producers. Tomorrow, severe weather risk will be in the Dakotas. On Wednesday, we're seeing some marginal risk from Nebraska northeastward up into Minnesota. And we do have a day in the long range here. On day 5, the Storm Prediction Center has highlighted an area in south to North Dakota and northwestern Minnesota where there's a implied 15% chance or a slight risk of severe weather. Now, rainfall, if you believe WPC, no rain for the next 7 days for much of New Jersey, Long Island, the lower Hudson Valley into Connecticut, as well as eastern New England, and minimal amounts for areas inland in Pennsylvania and upstate New York, anywhere from only a couple of hundredths to maybe as much as a couple of pockets of a quarter of an inch in upstate New York and Vermont and New Hampshire. There might actually be some thunderstorms up there later in the day tomorrow. There's a weather front ahead of that big high building into eastern Canada that's coming southward. So that might set off some thunderstorms there. But in the southeast, an additional 2 or 3 inches or more of rain from Georgia to North Carolina, and also seeing anywhere from 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a half from Iowa to Minnesota and on up into North Dakota. Let's do the tropics, and this is Tropical Storm Dexter, which at 5 o'clock was at 36.1 and 66.2, which is, I'd say about a couple of hundred miles north of Bermuda, northwest of Bermuda, moving on a course that is to the northeast at 15 miles an hour, top winds of 45, and it's just going to continue on to the open waters of the Atlantic and will not be an issue. Now, there are two other systems that the Hurricane Center is highlighting, and in the 7-day forecast, a 50% chance of gradual development of a tropical wave that's off the African coast now and moving westward. And the models are also showing that a tropical depression could form late this week as the system moves on a west or west-northwest course. and they now increased it a little bit to 30% of something developing off the southeast coast late this week. And you can see that area again off of Florida, much like how Dexter started, except this time around, it's probably not going to be able to exit out to the northeast. So we're going to have to see how this all plays going forward. But the European today I thought was pretty interesting. I'm going to let's do a little upper air first. Because there are some important changes that are going on. And you'll notice here we have troughing in the lower and middle Mississippi Valley, and of course that's been funneling moisture in the southeast. We have a trough here in the northeast, in eastern Canada. That's going to be moving out to the east, and as we move it along, you see that Canadian trough lifts out. We lose the northwest flow over the next couple of days. And that's good because that should reduce the wildfire smoke. It pushes the flow back up into northern Canada. So there's no access uh, to for that air to come down into the Great Lakes or into the Northeast. So that's cut off. So in the meantime, we've got the big upper high heat ridge settling over the southwest and a little bit of a ridge here building up in eastern Canada, and that's our surface high. We're going to be in a situation where temperatures might wind up being as warm to our north as they are overhead, with the stronger high up to the north. And as we go through the rest of the week and into the weekend, not much really changes. We're kind of stuck in a no man's land in the middle here. And I just want to point this out because you do have a ridge that's offshore. Let me just fix this up here, folks. Hang on one second. There we go. You do have a ridge that's offshore. Here's your upper high. You have like another finger of a ridge that's building out of the Gulf and going up into the Ohio Valley. The heat ridge is weakened into the southwest, and you've got troughing here in the east. So it's like a bit of a weird looking flow. But the point is that if something does form off the southeast coast, there is an opening here. And it's something that we're going to have to watch if something does form that maybe it tries to sneak northward. Certainly would led to an argument that some of that moisture would wind up at least making it up through the Carolinas and maybe Virginia come this coming weekend, but we'll see. And then gradually, as we move through time and go through next week, the westerlies from Canada come down a little bit, not quite down to the latitude of New York City and Long Island, but they get close. And on the lower right, you'll see that the European has picked up on this tropical system off the African coast, which on today's runs is taking it more to the west. And eventually it winds it up somewhere in the southern Bahamas, if you want to believe it. Because when you look at the ensembles and you look at some of the other models, the solutions are all over the place, absolutely all over the place. So we are going to just keep on watching to see how it plays out. First things first is that something has to develop before we get on with this. Um, but anyway, here's what it looks like on the European. But there you go with the low moving out to the north. That's Dexter going out. And you can see the big high up in eastern Canada. You see the severe weather in the Dakotas. And then you see also the rain in the southeast that kind of weakens during the nighttime hours and then picks up during the day. And that's going to continue for the rest of the week. That high holds firm. So certainly through Saturday, we don't really see it. That moisture is having a real tough time moving northward. But again, this is where we watch what happens off the southeast coast because we see that low that's off South Carolina kind of trying to nudge northward, and the high somewhat gives way, but still part of it tries to hold on. It seems like the rain doesn't get anywhere close until maybe Sunday night or Monday, and how much is left at that point, I don't know. But that will be something to consider when we get through the end of the week and go into the weekend. So I see that everybody's talking about Vincent Croce, who's been a regular on the chat board for quite a while now. He joined us relatively recently. I'm just seeing from the comments that judging, I didn't see the comments from earlier. Uh, did he pass away? Um, okay, I see. All right, so I'm so sorry to hear this. And I'm not, it's funny because I was thinking the same thing before the show, and I did Google. I know he lived in Brooklyn, and there is a Vincent Croce obit that I did find. And it says his age was 67. I had thought he had said he was 73 when we had a conversation before. But it's very, very sad. I'm going to try to get more information regarding this. And as soon and then when I do know something, I'll see what I can find out between now and tomorrow, and I will pass it along to you. He was such a positive influence on the chat board. I think if we all had met him, I think he's the kind of guy that everybody we would have liked him very much because I know everybody on the chat board certainly liked him, and he and I were always we would be conversing about markets and everything else. And it's very sad to hear that. So anyhow, I'm gonna let's call it a night. I'm gonna get a hold of Rayo and see if we can figure out what the audio issues are, and then we'll be back tomorrow night at 7:35 p.m. Eastern time.